I need to do.
Everything you were going to do,
Yeah.
she's going to do.
Yeah.
So do you have mic?
Yeah, they're over there. Those
Can we put a mic by the speaker of that?
Can we put a mic by the speaker?
That pick up?
Yeah, we're gonna test it now.
Hi everybody, we're just doing an audio test. We're getting ready to start in just a few minutes. So invite members of the circle to their tables.
So you're going to want to
Yeah,
sign
let
up
me
with this
know
one.
Yeah.
So I say, you home days, you like eat and goodies, so that's nice. Hi Courtney, hope you're enjoying this from your walks. Brian, you want to say that, Courtney? Hello, Courtney. Okay. Testing. And 987654321. All right. I wish I had something interesting to say. Absolutely nothing interesting to say. I'm really excited about this game. Eric, how do you feel about this game?
I'm really excited about the presentation.
I'm fairly confident about that too. We're just doing audio testing for the YouTube link, so that's why we're probably on here. I kind of feel like I'm a state fair reporter. Maybe you want to stick?
Okay.
This is a frequent credit host. The credit goes to funding Nash. So keep your very
Oh, but yeah.
Whenever you walk at this, whenever you're ready.
That's just a beautiful lead off for this meeting.
We can hear things. Yeah, we're good. Okay.
Got it?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you. That one is one of those
Anybody have a second mic?
Are you presenting the PowerPoint or? If I find it. Yeah, you can present it. I guess you just can't. Oh, I meant yeah. Okay, so you'll be clicking it. Yeah. So just let me know. I'm not doing any presentation. Okay. Yeah. If I can turn like this.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Brian Paulson. I'm the program officer at the Full Family Foundation. I am here on behalf of Susan Ashoff, who unfortunately unable to join. She has been looking forward to joining you all. Unfortunately, but I will kick things off here. And we'll go through the agenda and but welcome to the second meeting of the Leadership Circle. Thank you for making the trip. Really appreciate you being here. Looking forward to a great second meeting. We will be using PowerPoint here.
The word cloud.
So this is a work plan that we created coming out of the last meeting. And it's just
We can't.
it shows what great energy there really was and how about that first meeting. So thank you for your participation in that. So we're definitely jump on here. It is hopeful, being excited, really looking for greater opportunities.
Yeah.
So I'll walk through the agenda. Shortly, we'll start introductions. After introduction, we'll do a short presentation on what it means to be results focused. And hopefully get some common language around how we work together as a group. The main part of our section for today is really digging deep into that homelessness and the incredible progress we have made as a state on preventing and mitigating homelessness. We're going to spend a good chunk of time there, in addition to having some smaller group conversations during lunch. It's really exciting progress. I think there's a lot that we can learn from the work on that homelessness. We've got some great experts here to share their experience, and really looking forward to digging deep. Okay, is that better? All right. Thank you. Thanks. All right. Following our lunch, we will dig deeper into some of the infrastructure mapping and hear about different collaborative efforts across the state around preventing homelessness. And followed by that, what's next? I think we'll have
Agenda.
Our first decision is in leadership. Finalizing the purpose statement and how important first action that we will take as a group. So there's our agenda. We hope to close by about 1:50 and end our day at 2 o'clock. With that, I'll start with introductions. Again, I'm Brian Paulson. I am the program officer at the Full-Ed Foundation building in the Houston plan. We are executive partner of the I represent or entity the Full-Ed Foundation participates in any Minnesota Founders Collaborative. So representing Yellow Philanthropy as well as the flag. One of the things that we have done as a stakeholder group since the last meeting, we've had multiple meetings with 20+ foundations to just understand the public leadership circle, as well as opportunities moving forward to collaborate and contribute to the collective impact and some of the different commitments we will make as a collaborative, as well as individually as one. So, and a number of really great meetings, very energetic, and which is really exciting. With that, I will pass it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being with us. And just to let you know, we will be passing around the microphone for anyone who wants to make a comment. This is a little hard to hear with fans, so please be sure to use the microphone here when you speak. That will also help us who are participating online. I am Mary Tuberville. I represent state agencies. I serve as the co-chair of the Interagency Council on Homelessness. And
There's a message out to folks who are watching it that we're apologizing for the audio.
21st of May with this thing called the legislative session. And even though there were a lot of things that did not happen during the legislative session, there was a bonding bill. And I am very pleased to say that there are now $8 billion more in bonding that we will be able to use for permanent supportive housing, and another $10 million that we will be able to use for renovating public housing around the state. And I'm going to be letting my friends and folks talk more about that. But because it did take the work of a lot of state agencies to make that happen, that's the big advice we're posting.
Good morning. My name is Justin Orbach. I coordinate the Southwest Minnesota Continuum Care. Today I'm sitting in for Patty Beach, who coordinates the Northeast Minnesota Continuum Care. She wasn't able to make it. So, regarding that third bullet, we're all getting the question. I can say that what came to mind is yesterday I was having a conversation with ICA, the data agency related to homelessness in Minnesota, Carla Sullivan, who represents the Western COCs. So we're just talking about all the different ways we gather data, and both in HMIS and outside of it. The need for an analysis of all the data we're collecting, what data we're collecting, what are the points, and multiple places, what data we're not collecting, what we should be, what we're doing with the data that we're collecting. So it's something that got me excited about streamlining that process and improve the data-driven work that we do with that analysis. So we're definitely
My name is Emmanuel Saltz. I'm the program director of Minnesota Assistance Council for Veterans. We're a statewide nonprofit agency focused on the mission of ending veteran homelessness in Minnesota. I wasn't at the last meeting, but I can talk about since April 10th, our staff have actively been housing homeless veterans and their families and preventing homelessness among this population. Our organization is focused on updating our strategic plan to drive the mission of ending veteran homelessness, and our strategy focus has been on the highest barrier to veterans within the homeless system.
I'm Eric Romo with the State Office to Prevent and End Homelessness and the Minnesota Department of Education. Joining the leadership circle today as a presenter for the discussion about veteran homelessness. Very excited for that conversation we'll get to come.
I'm Ben Wilson. I'm the homeless veteran coordinator with the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs, and I also act as the veteran representative with the Office of Prevention and Homelessness.
I'm Janelle Keith, the homeless program director for the Minneapolis VA Medical Center, and I'm joining the leadership support as a presenter.
My name is Ellen Dinsmore. I'm the Medical Special Programs Manager for St. Cloud VA, and I want to welcome you here today. I apologize for my air conditioning. We've been working hard since 2008 to end veteran homelessness in Minnesota, and we've had a lot of success here. I'm really excited about what you folks have going on and how anything that we've done can support the rest of the state towards the mission of ending homelessness.
Hi, I'm Kathy Tenbrook. I'm the director of the state's Office to Prevent and End Homelessness. I work very integral in support of the Interagency Council on Homelessness. I think, as most people know, state agencies have already created their specific commitments to the Heading Home Together plan. And so since the last meeting, we have met with all of the action teams that are working on implementing those actions for the plan. Hope to kick off our implementation, talk about how we work together and monitor our work over the next several months, but also to update them about this body and what we're doing here, with the hopes that eventually we'll be doing both of those groups together to actually align our elected action with the work.
Hi, I'm Michelle, regional expert in stepping stones. Working on the ways of getting transportation for people who are currently homeless in child shelters, and creating groups, support groups, or empowering coaching for people who are in that in-between spot where they're living in shelters and open getting into their homes.
Hi, my name is Mark People. I represent the counties, specifically the county commissioners, the commissioner from Brewer County. Last week with our stakeholder groups, to talk with other counties, commissioners, and with our association, bringing the awareness of the homeless situation, and what steps can we take, what we should step to take, counties can take to help lead solving the problem.
Jennifer, I'm Executive Director of Partners for Affordable Housing in Mankato. And I would say, looking inward, listening to people and recognizing that we're not alone, and the work that we're doing, there's a greater voice talking, so I think that there's an opportunity for us to dream bigger than what do we need immediately, but what do we need for legislation, legislators, and just bigger voice for our region. Outwardly, just talking with other groups, again, to share with them, there's a bigger conversation happening, and there's change, I think, so it's exciting to share that with them. And just having different conversations about what do they need and pass on to.
My name is Jennifer Loren. I am the State Advocates. I'm the Youth Program Director. We provide advocacy for victims of domestic violence and sexual violence with a parenting time center and a temporary shelter enrollment. I would say what we've been doing is day in, day out, providing shelter for residents, but also helping them find homes and apartments. And what we're learning is in our area, it's hard and limited. And we're just continuing to help them search and search and search every day how we can get our boots on the ground and help them find something. So that's what we're continuing to do every day.
My name is Eric Getz. I am the Operations Director at Lighthouse in Duluth. I'm here on behalf of Eric Lutz today. I'm a veteran myself, and I actually completed my internship at McAfee. And so I'm not fully up to speed on what's happening with this group, but I hear that there's great momentum, and I hope I can contribute effectively to the conversation today.
Hi, I'm Monica Fallon. I'm the Ramsey County COC coordinator, so I kind of Metro Continuum Care. And so one thing that I did while she did for us is she sent out the information from the last meeting to all of the COC coordinators, and then I took a lot of it back as well to Ramsey, and then I wrote in the Metro, we've kind of been talking more about coordination and alignment across the COCs when it comes to the data and so that's kind of what we're still focused on.
Hello, my name is Tammy Norman, and I represent the Minnesota Tribal Collaborative, which is the 5 Northern tribes in Minnesota. There's a couple of things that we're working on. One of them is we are realizing the importance of data, and we are all gearing up for the reservation study that's going to be happening in October. The other thing that is very important to us is to make sure that any of the assessment tools that are used are consistent and that they're culturally appropriate. So that's what we would like to contribute.
I'm sure that you're similar to Tammy. I guess I just kind of follow her lead on most of this stuff, back her up, so pretty much mentioned everything in our stakeholder areas. My name is Brian Peterson with Minnesota Assistance Council for Veterans. Our work is focused on ending homelessness among veterans in Minnesota, doing some partnership with a lot of folks around the street and around the state.
Good morning. I'm Shirley Johnson with the Outdoor Trust and consistency with the community. And we have a staff person who's involved in the honeymoon self-homes. So it's one way we can. But over the years, we've invested in many organizations and understand issues, what's happening where. Just coincidentally, we funded a grant for the midpost to those online information, and with the intent that they will be able to hire someone who will understand the issues. And just in June, you know, an article on Great Lakes Sounds Addiction Program. So, part of what I see we can do individually is to provide information for these legal agencies to stay engaged in communities over the years and
Thank you. My name is Senta Neff. I am here as one of the co-chairs of the Homes for All campaign, which is a coalition of more than 200 organizations across the state working on a shared policy agenda from year to year. I'm also the executive director of the Minnesota Coalition for the Homeless. Since we last met, Mary mentioned some of the wins we had at the legislature. Housing, in addition to what Mary mentioned, housing infrastructure bonds were also dedicated to, $30 million were dedicated to housing crisis centers. And then we also were able to advance 2 policy changes around how expanding the use of how housing infrastructure bonds can be used, including for senior-only affordable housing projects and for manufactured housing. Since we celebrated those wins, we have begun debriefing what our work accomplished, what went well, where we may have missed opportunities, and how we can learn from that moving into the 2019 session, and are in the very early stages of doing deeper debriefing with broader constituencies around the state, and then beginning to consider, as the new ideas are emerging, how can we assist those ideas that are just now taking shape to potentially be a good fit for our policy agenda, and continue to keep all of these emerging housing ideas and groups headed in a unified direction.
I am Allison Strike. I am the other co-chair for Homes for All. And so one other thing we've done, we've briefly updated in our April full coalition meeting, our coalition members on the April 10th meeting that we had. And now as a coordinating team, we've been working on having a more in-depth discussion around this group at our July or August meeting, and looking at Jennifer presenting on that.
Hi, good morning. My name is Michelle Smith. I'm Field Office Director for HUD here in the state of Minnesota. And what I did after our first meeting was to sit down with my management team and tell them about this group and talk about what we can do at the field office level to better address the issue of homelessness in Minnesota. And so we came up with a couple things. Our public housing director, our Office of Public Unity and Housing Director, is going to include in the next couple of newsletters a reminder to all public housing authorities that they can have a homeless preference on their waiting list. And then something else that we're going to do is in our multifamily projects, it's also permissible to do, in a sense, a homeless preference independent selection plans. And there was a notice sent out on a regional level about how you do this homeless preference, but I don't believe we've ever sent one out just in Minnesota. So I'm working on the language to send out a memo to all multifamily owners, housing project owners, to promote the idea of putting in a homeless preference.
Hi, I'm David Hewitt from Epping County Office on Homelessness. April 10th was a long time ago. This year's flying by. Lots has happened since then, but I'm specifically here representing the county's stakeholder group, and especially the Association of County Social Service Administrators. Things that we've been working on, something that Mark and I and others have spoken about, is developing a playbook for counties, acknowledging the huge range of involvement counties have in this space. Can we develop some guidance, some practical implementation steps that could be useful across that range? And the social service administrators are meeting in August around transportation and housing, and we're intending to present to that group, I intend to present to that group, let's do it, on the work that's coming out of this leadership circle and how we will bring that group into life.
Hi, I'm Emily Piper. I'm Commissioner of Human Services for the state, and I represent, I guess, at this group, the human services system overall for the
state of Minnesota. And I wasn't at the April meeting, but Chuck Johnson, our deputy commissioner, was. Since then, it sounds like Mary's touched on the legislative components. We've also been working at DHS to embed the work of our plan, our statewide plan, into the various areas of DHS. One thing that I don't think, it's a small thing, but it's not necessarily something that gets captured in the bigger work that we do, is we're trying to do a better job of discharge planning out of our state institutions as part of the work. Because we've had experiences where people are discharged into homelessness or really challenging situations. So we're trying to do better case coordination and case management with our county partners, in addition to all the other work that we do.
Hi, I'm Pastor Sue Kesterman, and I serve as Executive Director at Churches United for in Moorhead. And I'm here as regional expert for Central Minnesota. I'm accompanied by my friend Nina Edwards, who has a lived experience of homelessness and is joining this circle for the first time today. Some of the things that are going on in our area, we've got a couple of collaborative grant applications that have been submitted. Darlene with Clay County Housing and Redevelopment Authority took the lead on those. One is to increase the number of vouchers available for folks in that 18 to 65 year range who have an identified disability. And those are portable vouchers and then throughout our area of Minnesota. There's another collaborative plan that we've written a number of us letters of support on that's designed to provide additional supports for people transitioning out of homelessness into stable housing. And some of those supports come in the form of service agreements with providers, but some of them have to do with initiatives that are involving the faith community. One I'd like to highlight is a pilot that is being expanded now in our area called the Make It a Home program. It's designed by one of our local churches in Moorhead, and it's designed as a 2-year pairing between a faith community and a household transitioning from homelessness to stable housing. The idea is that during the 2-year period, in the first year, the congregation provides a little more direct mentoring and walking alongside, assisting with identifying resources and helping to iron out early bumps in the road. The second year, then the idea is that the mentoring congregation gradually steps back a little bit so that over the course of the 2-year period, the household is more and more empowered and able to be more and more self-sufficient. And so our hope is that we'll see less bounce back and return to homelessness through that. We have a number of folks in the region who are very interested in that, beginning in the Department of Moorhead area, but there's interest a little bit more broadly. So I'm hopeful within the next couple of years, we'll see a lot more of that. And while it is centered on faith communities, one of the tenets is that there's no evangelizing. That's not the purpose of this program. So we're excited about that. And then we just earlier this week had the grand opening and dedication for the Bright Sky Apartments, which are an initiative of Churches United for Homeless, and those provide 43 units of permanent support housing. Yeah, that's worth it. That's a long haul to get there. The other thing that we've been doing in the community that we're really excited about is we are now have community-wide farmland more diversion from shelter and prioritization for shelter beds, and we just recently added a full-time position specifically dedicated to coordinating prioritization. And we hope that in doing that, we'll be able to serve folks better.
I forgot to mention during introductions, this just feel free to excuse yourself as needed. Self-care, particularly on a hot day like today, is really important. The restrooms are just out this door to your right, the women's first, and then you walk further down the hallway. The men's restroom is also on the right. There's cold ice water. Definitely help yourself with that throughout the meeting. And do what you need to do to just stay calm. Okay, so I'm actually going to stand up because I talk with my hands, and that's not going to work really well, but I'm holding a big. So I'm going to come to the podium. That's okay. We thought it would be helpful just to kind of get grounded in what it means to be results focused as a group, and what we are collectively accountable to, and all have a role in helping prevent it. So a framework that's been helpful in a number of other collaborative efforts is called results-based accountability, sometimes called results-based leadership. This was actually used to help form the first state plan to prevent homelessness, but it's also used by a number of national foundations. It's used by policy and a number of their equity efforts. It's been used by the Promise Neighborhood Network, so if anyone's here from the Promise Neighborhood, you might be familiar with that. But what it does a really great job of is helping get from talk to action and being clear on how you operationalize a vision. So we oftentimes start with big visions, but then moving that into action is where we get stuck. This helps do that. It also helps really tie together a number of the different pieces that we talked about as a group, all together in kind of a common framework. So hoping that this is helpful, and I'm also excited to figure out some visualization stuff in this PowerPoint that has some technology. So thanks for letting me share some of that. Oh. We'll go to the next one. So this is kind of the whole framework here on results-based accountability. But as I said, it starts with our broad vision. And this vision should be clear. Oh, is that better? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Starts with the broad vision. And this vision should be familiar. This is in the state, or in the collective action plan that you all received a copy of. But it starts broad with kind of a value statement, like all Minnesotans should have stable housing. And then it moves into some of the community indicators. So these should be familiar as well. This is some of the community level indicators that will help us track our progress. So we talk about ending homelessness as homelessness becoming rare, brief, and one time. Right? So these aren't real numbers. This is future things that we can track our progress against. But it's community level indicators that help us know that we are succeeding in our efforts. And it's community level indicators that we can all contribute to. But our indicators are rare, brief, one time, and we can track this increasingly through different data systems. But this holds us all accountable to results. Results for the future. Next slide. When we talk about bending the curve, that might be a saying that comes up, but it's just about how are we making progress in the direction that we want to see things go. So we're going to hear about veterans homelessness today, and how veterans homelessness has gone down by like 45, 48%, a big number. We are turning the curve on veterans homelessness in the right direction. We are making great progress. But that might come up as, well, talk about it as bending the curve or turning the curve. Next slide. This is where this group really plays a critical role. Understanding what is the story behind the trend. This group has collective insight on this issue that is really amazing. I mean, you think about all the different sectors at the table and how each person brings a perspective that can help us understand the larger need. That's what this part is about. What is the story behind the curve? What's going on in the community that is causing trends to go up or down? Why do we think these numbers are the way that they are? What are the big forces at play? What are you hearing from your working community? What are you seeing and experiencing that can help us better understand the challenge that we're trying to address? This is part of the problem-solving process that we talk a lot about, and that you see in the responsibilities of this group. This gets at identifying some of the different challenges and how we understand And this leads to then some of the solutions that we will come together as a group. There. So this is the different partners and roles. So when we talk about every Minnesotan has a role to play in helping prevent and end homelessness, these are the roles that increasingly we are defining for our sectors, for ourselves, and for the way that we're going to each individually and collectively contribute to bending the curve in the right direction. What are the things that we can do collectively, but also what are the things that we can do in our unique sectors that maybe others cannot? So we talked a lot about this in philanthropy. What is the unique role of philanthropy in helping prevent and end homelessness? This is a part of it, is what can we do that others cannot, both in this circle, but also as our own individual sectors, recognizing that we all have a role to play. This is also where collective accountability plays a role, is what can others count on us to do? So we are going to be naming the different actions our sectors will take, and we'll hold each other collectively accountable to making progress on those actions. The state has done an amazing job of this with different departments in naming publicly their actions, but this is how we really move the different pieces into action. So when we talk about the action plan, we'll see how that ties up these different indicators. Next. This is really the problem-solving process. This is what are our best ideas to improve. So as we understand more and more how the numbers are going, what are the ways that we can problem solve towards those numbers? What are some of the ideas that this group can help generate on no-cost and low-cost ideas, on off-the-level ideas? Maybe it's an opportunity for innovation. It sounds like something that is completely off the wall, but maybe that's a great idea that someone else can help pursue and explore. What should we be doing more of? What should we be doing less of? What seems to be working? What doesn't seem to be working that we may want to stop? And then sometimes some aha moments. I think we had an aha moment in our last meeting where one of the faith-based leaders that attended said, landlords are a challenge. Wait a minute, we have a number of commissioners who are landlords. Can we engage through our faith-based organization the different landlords who are commissioners? That's an opportunity, right? These are some of the aha moments that I think we will see increasingly in this group. Next. This kind of ties this all together. From big broad vision to measurable community indicators on something that we need to contribute to, the different roles we are playing and committing to the action plan, and then the problem-solving process. How we can each bring ideas to the table to expedite our progress on this issue and problem solve together. Our goals will be identified in that action plan. You'll see a little bit about that later in this meeting. And that is a publicly naming the things that others can look to us to do within our given sector or as individual organizations. That forms a collective action plan. Questions?
Right, thank you, Brian. And we just heard from Brian, I think a really powerful reminder of why it can be so important for this group of leaders to come together. Because within the power of this circle, but importantly, all of the circles that you connect back into when you leave this room today, we actually do have the solutions to bring housing stability to all themselves. It's important to remind ourselves of that, probably every time we get together, because the issue can be so daunting and the headlines can be so discouraging that if you just remember that you have the power because of the circles that you go back home to do the things that you can uniquely do, and that you can count on the other people in the circle to carry forward on their commitments as well. So if we keep reminding ourselves of that, we will find ways to really start to bend this curves. One of the things I would also say is that we will find in this group, as we proceed with our work, that the curves won't always move in the direction we want them to, despite our best efforts. They will get stalled out sometimes on that plateau. Other times, they will go up instead of going down. And one of the things that I'm hoping, we'll get into the discussion this afternoon about what our purpose is that this circle will be a place where we can not only hold up the things where we've had some success and celebrate that success, but that we will all also have enough trust with each other that if there's a curve that we're working on that's going in the wrong direction, that we can bring that problem here and do some joint problem solving. And I'd love for you to think about that before we have that discussion about our purpose this afternoon. Following this discussion, we thought it would make a lot of sense to take a topic where there has been consolidated and coordinated effort for a number of years now, and that is ending veterans' homelessness. So we have a distinguished panel, most of whom you've heard from in the introductions this morning, that's going to spend about the next 45 minutes talking about how they use that results-driven approach to, first of all, define what the issue is, define what success would be, and really introduce some pretty radical and innovative tools that we now maybe too much take for granted, but that were really out of the box thinking when we first introduced them and really starting to make a difference. You'll get a chance to ask questions, and over lunch, you'll get a chance to look at where we are right now on our journey of ending veterans' homelessness and get a chance to talk about some of that problem solving. So that's what we have ahead for you, and with that, I'm going to turn over to Ben Wilson.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Kunderfeld. It is truly an honor to be here today to be able to share our progress that we've made, and I do have the distinguished pleasure of presenting with the folks to my right and my left here. So we'll be passing the microphone a little bit today too as we work through our slides. We'd like to be, a panel discussion. If we do start talking in acronyms that you may not understand, feel free to raise your hand. You know that sometimes that happens. I'm happy to clarify anything that we might be, anything that needs to be clarified. So again, thank you very much, and I hope that you all can take away a little bit about all of our programs that we're going to be speaking about, and that the sort of the methods that we've used over the years, you can start to think about ways that might be applied to the work that you're doing every day. I know that we all had a chance to introduce ourselves already, so it's the folks to my left and right, me, and so I think we'll just jump into the next slide here. So this first slide is really just wanted to highlight some of the tools that we currently have in our toolbox that we utilize. And in order to really kind of understand what those programs are on the screen, I'm going to pass the microphone first to Nathaniel Saltz, the Minnesota Assistance Council for Veterans, and then I'd like to touch or check in with Ellen and Janelle from VA as well. So, thank you. The Supportive Services for Veteran Family Grant, it's a VA grant. There are two grantees here in Minnesota. There's us, MACB, and TRICAP has a grant that covers the 3 counties here in central Minnesota as well. The funds are for rapid rehousing services, the case management piece, as well as security deposits, rental assistance, and prevention. So the focus is maintaining stability for those that are at imminent risk of becoming homeless and housing those veterans, the housing personnel that are already homeless.
Hi there. So with the Minneapolis VA and St. Cloud VA, the VAs nationally, starting in 2008, we started getting awarded HUD-MASH vouchers, and that's VA supportive housing, so it's case management services paired with Section 8 voucher. And we've been really grateful to receive 799 total HUD-MASH vouchers in the state of Minnesota. And that funding we hope will continue because it has made a huge impact. At the beginning, when we started receiving the vouchers, obviously we were incredibly focused towards housing chronically homeless veterans, and I'm happy to say now that that number has dramatically decreased.
As Janelle was saying, the initial HUD-MASH vouchers were designated really for veterans who are experiencing chronically homeless. St. Cloud has been exempted from that performance metric for a couple of years now, because we just don't have chronically homeless veterans in this area to be able to fulfill the target. I think was 60% or something like that. One of the neat things VA did when they started was that they gave us a number of target areas to put our efforts towards. They called them 6 pillars: outreach and education, homelessness prevention, treatment services, housing and supportive services, income employment benefits, and community partnerships. So VA kind of came to this pretty cold because you guys were the experts and we didn't know what we were doing. But we were targeted with ending veteran homelessness. And so one of the things I wanted to say is I really appreciate the fact that you've welcomed VA into this issue. But having these 6 targeted areas really helped us to figure out what we were doing. They told us we had to target all of these things, but they didn't exactly tell us how to do it. So everything kind of centered around our community partnerships and our outreach to both the community and the veterans. Then there were multiple mandates that were established, and we were held in very tightly accountable for what we accomplished in each of those categories. Plus, we got a lot of resources, and my hope was that resources for veterans was going to help take some of the stress off of the other community agencies that were helping non-veterans. A lot of, while urban centers really struggled to tackle this issue, the rural areas had very unique problems of their own. Small communities had very limited resources. Finding veterans experiencing homelessness was like finding needles in a haystack because people weren't grouped together. And so we had people that living in sheds and ice houses and things like that, where people didn't even know that they were homeless. It's helped a lot. I think we're going to get into talking about the Veterans Registry, which has been really crucial to this whole effort that we've made. Some of the other rural area issues have to do with kind of burning out landlords, where we don't have a wide pool of landlords, and so we have veterans that end up going through rehousing and things like that. And landlords who have had experiences with HUD-MASH don't necessarily want to rent to our HUD-MASH folks again. One of the real advantages I see that VA has had over some of the other community programs is that with this housing first model of HUD-MASH, we have deployed clinical staff, not just case managers, to be able to provide the service. We have mental health professionals that are in the home that can engage veterans in recovery services, mental health services, substance use services, without them having to leave their home or access the services independently. And so it's case management with a clinical twist. And so all of our HUD-MASH workers, our HUD-MASH case managers are all licensed independent mental health professionals. So they provide a lot of services right in the home to prevent someone becoming homeless again. That return to homelessness is something that on a national level, they've really struggled to get a grasp of. We have very high expectations for how many of our HUD-VASH vouchers are under lease, and they seem to, the folks, the powers that be seem to think that when someone is housed in a HUD-VASH program, that it's permanent supportive housing, that they're going to stay in that permanent supportive housing and not have complications again, and that's not the case at all. We have about a 20-25% attrition rate where we need to get people rehoused. So that's very complicated. About 75% of our veterans that are in HUD-VASH are newly diagnosed with substance use and mental health issues, and many of them are not engaged in any other service than what we provide in HUD-VASH. We started tribal VASH up on Leech Lake Indian Reservation, and culturally the most important thing that we look at there is that we're looking at not homelessness, but houselessness. Because the way the culture is, people are taking people in, and there are far too many people in a particular residence for it to be healthy for that group of people. And then we also need to make sure that our housing options allow for extended family, and that we can add other family members into that housing unit as necessary. So it's the culture of being culturally appropriate is extremely important. But the low vacancy rates are very difficult right now. I think we're at about 3% vacancy rate in the St. Cloud area, but up in the tribal lands, there's about 1.5% vacancy rate. So finding housing for people is very difficult, especially complex populations that have maybe poor credits and criminal history, and poor rental history. So thank you for having me.
And then just wanted to touch too on a few other items listed on that particular slide. The supportive housing units that we have had infused into the state have really been critical to helping us to continue to house homeless veterans and really to accelerate our housing outcomes, including the Linden Grove project, which we have here on the VA. Next slide. So this slide, I think there might be some animation included on here. I'd like to hand it off to Eric to kind of kick off or tee up this conversation about really the chronology of the infusion of resources into the state and how that really began to accelerate our efforts.
Thanks, Ben, and apologies that this is going to be kind of a gymnastic slide flipping experience for you up front. So I'll give you the signal when we go to the next animation. The first thing to note is that when you look at that trajectory from the high water mark that we hit in 2010 to the 2017 point-in-time count, this is the veteran-specific number from the point-in-time count that happens every January. That's a 58% reduction, which is 10 percentage points ahead of where we've seen the national reduction. And the challenge that I have in this slide, in addition to just sharing some of the key milestones with you, is also to make sure that you take away a sense that, yes, the infusion of resources has been a critical ingredient here, but it's not resources alone. A lot of the work that has happened is not just about having new stuff to be able to deploy. In addition, it's not magic. It's method, sometimes messy method, sometimes complicated. Let's try this, that didn't work, let's try something else. But there actually is a story behind how we got here that'll be helpful as we tease this through. So the first thing to note is that at the same time that the federal government, let's rewind backwards, sorry. Can you go back a bit? I'll give you a signal when we want to go to the next one as we kind of tell this story, otherwise folks are going to feel overwhelmed by the stuff up on the screen. So as we think about the origins of some of this work, in 2010, an organization called Community Solutions, which is responsible for the Build for Zero initiative that's happening right now, launched really the precursor to that, called the 100,000 Homes Campaign. And the central idea behind the 100,000 Homes Campaign was that if communities wanted to end homelessness, it was not enough to just think about how many people are you serving, how many people are you serving, how many people did you count in the point in time count. You really had to track what was your success rate in getting the people that you served successfully placed into housing. And that, although that may seem a little obvious,
was at the time a bit of a revolution for our field in terms of thinking about, well, wow, what would it take for us to know that number, not just for my own program, but across our entire community. That was not something that we had readily accessible for anybody at that time. In addition, with the infusion that Janelle and Ellen mentioned of federal HUD VASH vouchers, this is rental assistance from HUD, coupled with case management support from VA. There was also, with that additional infusion, a really strong emphasis on the way those vouchers were used that was new and different. And part of that was guidance from a federal level, which I think, as Ellen described, was quite disciplined about actually tracking how are we doing on the goals that we set. And when I say disciplined, what I mean is that members of the President's Cabinet were regularly briefed on how well we were doing targeting vouchers that Congress had authorized. But in addition, it was also about making sure that that targeting idea was implemented well locally. And so when you see that incredibly steep curve that happened between 2010 and 2012, that was primarily driven by the fact that with the resources that we had and the new resources that came in, we made sure they were being used in the way that they were intended. The federal government also organized itself in a new way with the creation and launch of Opening Doors in June of 2010. So here we are, 8 years later. That was the first ever federal plan to prevent and end homelessness that really helped those agencies, including HUD and VA, organize themselves in a more coherent and consistent way. Next animation. Right after that incredibly steep decline, Hennepin County was actually featured in a report published by the U.S. Interagency Council, which is the federal body responsible for organizing the administration's work on homelessness, because of the rapid decline and looking at 4 other communities, really distilled a handful of themes. What were the things these places did to achieve those kinds of results? And the themes were, they used a housing first orientation, so our fastest path to housing is the one that we want. They used data, they actually knew each other, and they coordinated and talked with each other about what was needed to get to the goal. And so that level of leadership alignment was not something that was present everywhere. The connection between VA resources and community resources, not a given, not in place in many communities. And so Hennepin County was lifted up in 2012, at the end of 2012 on that basis. Next one, please. At the end of 2013, now about a year later, Minnesota, through the Minnesota Interagency Council on Homelessness, also organized itself in a new and different way. And in releasing Heading Home, the first ever state plan to prevent and end homelessness, called for a specific focus on ending veteran homelessness on a veteran-by-veteran basis. So you can kind of see the echoes of how that idea of a person-centered approach and really looking at what each individual veteran needs sets the stage for what's to come. Next one, please. With incredible leadership from the First Lady's office at the federal level and support from HUD and VA, in 2014, the Mayor's Challenge to Prevent and End Homelessness was launched, which was really a new and different way to think about organizing community focus on this goal. Minnesota was well represented. We were among the very first mayors, and even we had one of the first governors who signed on to the Mayor's Challenge, so it ended up being broader than just mayors at the end of the day. And hundreds of communities now have signed up for that campaign, really signaling at the highest level of leadership within their communities an intent to focus on reaching that goal. Next slide, next slide. Minnesota was also selected for a huge infusion of additional resources that were allocated by Congress for the Supportive Services for Veteran Families grant, which also created types of openings and ideas about what could we do with those resources, what could we do next. And so on August 13th, 2014, that date was significant to me, so I held on to it, we had a leadership gathering of people from the state, from Hennepin County, from Ramsey County, from MACB, from a variety of community service organizations, from the VA, to be able to say, what is it going to actually take for us to now use these new resources we have and finish the job of ending veteran homelessness? And one of the commitments that came out of that work, I think, was a willingness to collaborate in a way that hadn't happened always, all the time. But in addition, to actually build ourselves a system that would allow us to do that work on a veteran-by-veteran basis. And so the next clip, Marek, go ahead.
Miraculously, within a 3-week span of time, the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs developed and prototyped a veteran registry software system that would allow us to actually share information across partners. I think a lot of people were surprised that it was possible for partners to move so quickly, but I think that also maybe emphasizes the power of this circle, that if somebody else can't step forward right there, maybe somebody else can. And so really an incredible opportunity then to have a shared understanding of who was in the universe of the veterans that we were trying to reach. And I know Ben and others will talk more about the registry in a moment. Next. What's remarkable is that then over the span of a couple of years, 2 things happened. One is that we actually got incredibly more confident about these numbers. I think we have a much better handle on what our actual size of the population is as a result of having a shared way to track that on a person-by-person basis. In addition, we have had over the course, we can do the next 2 right now. Over the course of the last 18 months, we have had 4 of Minnesota's 10 continuums of care. Go ahead. And again. 4 of Minnesota's 10 continuums of care. So the Southwest Minnesota COC was first. We're going to hear from Justin about that experience in a minute. Followed by West Central and Northwest, which were acknowledged together. And most recently, Northeast Minnesota, that all have gone through the process of actually submitting evidence and data to the federal government to say, have we reached the goal? Have we gotten there? And so I think with that rapid succession of 4 of our 10 COCs in 18 months, it suggests the potential for a kind of drumbeat that can sweep all across the state and not only help propel further progress on veteran homelessness, but homelessness for all. So with that, I'm going to give you something.
I'm sure that's a lot of information on a short slide. So next slide, please. So just to jump back a little bit, so the State Department of Veterans Affairs really saw that there was a role that they could play. And so the Veteran Registry was launched in December of 2014 officially. And it was really our first holistic way to really see how many veterans that we were identifying, and similarly how many we were housing every month. So prior to this by-name list, providers were engaging with the same veterans without knowing that they were engaging with the same veterans. So we were really duplicating what each other was doing. And so this by-name list of the Homeless Veteran Registry helped us to really target, get them connected with the most appropriate resource, and deduplicate our services to veterans throughout the state. And similarly, in terms of moving people into housing, it really started to give us a better feel and an accurate count of how many individuals we were moving into permanent housing every month. So just to put some numbers to that, when the Veteran Registry first kicked off, we were housing on average about 14 veterans per month, and by the end of the first year, we were housing 49 veterans per month. So really a ton of progress in a pretty short span of time. And this was simply due to just working together and collaborating with all of the partners involved. So it really helped us in numerous ways to get them connected with all of the resources necessary to maintain their housing stability once we did get them into housing. Next slide, please. So as you can see on this slide, initially when the registry kicked off, our housing outcomes were near zero, or the folks that were moving into housing. And as we got better at working together and really starting to collaborate, the orange lines there, you start to see rise, and those are our housing outcomes. So those 3 peaks you see of veterans identified are actually directly correlated to the MACV stand down that happens in August of every year in the Twin Cities. So we've really made a big push to ensure that we are identifying all veterans who come to the stand down and try to connect them with a housing plan before they even enter the event over the last couple of years as well, which has been very helpful. And most known veterans that we have been working with were added within those first few months. So you see that's where a lot of the red is. And it really goes to show, really we're just trying to get everybody that we knew on the registry, and then the housing outcomes began to happen after a couple months. All right, next slide. So really through this collaborative, what we do is the veteran registry is broken up into bi-weekly meetings, and we do one for Ramsey County and one for Hennepin COC respectively, because those are still our highest concentrations of homeless veterans in the state. And then we also do a Greater Minnesota call where we have providers from all over the state of Greater Minnesota, and they sort of jump on in half-hour increments and jump off, so I don't have to take up 2 hours of their day to focus on just their region. But the nice thing about that is that we can really focus on the providers that are in that region, and we can hook them up with the appropriate resources through just having them on the call and creating that awareness. We've also recently really pulled in the coordinated entry priority list managers. And what that has helped us to do is really ensure that our homeless veteran registry, which actually kicked off before coordinated entry was fully implemented in Minnesota, to make sure that those systems are talking to each other. So that if we house a veteran, we can get that individual off of the coordinated entry wait list. And if they have a veteran who's on a coordinated entry wait list, that we can try to identify them and get them on our registry as well, and start to engage them. So we really keep our definition of veteran as broad as possible. We don't want to exclude any veteran before we even have a chance to speak with them. So there might be a veteran who just served in the National Guard. They may not think that they actually meet the criteria for a veteran, and they may not initially, but just in talking to providers, they realize that they may be eligible for a service-connected disability or some other resource that can help them. And what we found is just talking to them can sometimes get them eligible for programs and services. So we do keep that very broad, and we also keep it very low barrier in terms of how to get on the registry by numerous ways. Veterans can call 188-LINK-VET. They can, through any of our county veteran service officers, any of our partners statewide, they all have access to the registry, tennis and warning. It's also on the NDVA website. If you ever want to print it out for a veteran, you're more than welcome to it, and the instructions are very simple to follow. We also, the conversations in the registry meetings are very short. We try to keep them to about 2 or 3 minutes because the list can be long and cumbersome to get through sometimes. And we really try to focus that conversation on what has to do with their housing, their immediate housing needs, and we try to focus on anything else. So that last slide just shows a brief kind of description of what that conversation might go like. So this slide really shows our partners statewide. This is a snapshot taken directly from our tenants and warning. As you can see, we really do have a lot of partners involved in this at any given time, depending on the area of the state that we are working in. And it also shows that continuous outreach and continuous engagement with providers is incredibly important for us to continue to accelerate and to identify gaps that might be out there that we may not even know about until a partner makes us aware of that gap. So we are constantly reaching out to new partners as they sort of come and go in the system, and also as systems change, like the coordinated entry implementation, we're working to address that and really adapt to that as well. Next slide, please. So really, this is probably one of my favorite slides that I get to talk about. It's our progress that we've made up to this point. I know Eric just touched on it a little bit, but this really, we're demonstrating what can be done throughout the state, and it's showing that ending homelessness it's a possible task. It's not impossible. And so I think just in sharing our successes with everyone else, we hope to inspire that through our collaboration that you do the same with all of your providers that you work with as well. So in 2017, we had 457 newly identified veterans on the registry, and we actually housed 479. So there were, So there were obviously some carryover from the prior year that we had been still addressing, but we are housing more, or we did house more in 2017 than we identified, which is excellent. Since the registry kicked off in 2014, we've stably housed around 1,500 previously homeless veterans. And that recidivism rate, or veterans who come back on the registry after being housed, still remains very low. It's about 5 or 6% at any given time. And obviously our registry is in constant fluctuation as we house veterans and identify new veterans. And so I think it was touched on earlier this morning as well, but we've seen a 56% reduction of veteran homelessness in the state of Minnesota from 2010 to 2017, which leads the national average. I don't know that we're number one, but we're definitely ahead of the national average of 46%, which is excellent as well. And as Eric mentioned, 4 of our COCs, 46 of 87, have actually met the federal benchmarks and criteria for functional zero. And you know that a few others continue to look at those federal benchmarks and criteria in their areas. And just keeping that progress going is really important, and we continue to really work with our partners to help them and support them if they do decide to submit that evidence. Next slide. So now I would like to, this slide really it shows what the federal benchmarks and criteria are to meet that functional zero definition, if you will, or the federal review process that those communities have met. And if you would like to just kind of read through these, I would actually like to pass it off to Justin at this point to kind of talk about what that process was like for his continuing care.
Thanks, Ben. So again, I am the coordinator of the Southwest Minnesota Continuum of Care. We're 18 counties, 12,000 square miles. We have Hutchinson, Wilmer, Marshall, Wilmington, about 250,000 residents. So in the middle of 2016, Eric, who at the time was in Ben's role, I think reached out to me, and we started a conversation about ending veteran homelessness and being able to document that. And not only say that we ended it, but as these criteria and benchmarks describe, that when it does happen, it doesn't happen often, it's brief, and it doesn't recur. So we scheduled a meeting in October of that 2016 in Grand Falls at Jimmy's Pizza in the back room, and we had county veteran service officers, we had representatives from Minnesota Assistance Council for Veterans, we had Eric, we had other continuum of care representatives. I forgot to mention Jennifer up front is from our continuum of care, the Wilmer DB agency, representing DB agencies statewide in this circle. So it wasn't, we reviewed the questions, the narrative questions, and we reviewed the spreadsheet that is part of the submission process, and then we talked through the narrative questions. One in particular that got us a little bit stuck was, are we able to provide shelter immediately to any veteran experiencing unsheltered homelessness who wants it? So given that the only fixed site shelter is actually the DV shelter in Wilmer, and all the rest of the shelter is motel voucher based. We had to talk that through, and then we had the option to say if for any reason we're not able to provide immediate shelter, there's something called the Veteran to Eagles Healing, and that's a statewide program in central Minnesota that provides room and board to any veteran and provides 24/7 transportation. Is that still around? Good. So any COC can use that as their in that response. So Eric wrote up our submission and filled out the spreadsheet with the data, with input from me. That was in December of 16, and then well, just another note about the data. It's not just saying, okay, we're down to 0. It's like I said, it's showing that systems are in place to keep it at functional 0. And so then in March, it became official, and we had some newspaper articles. I think NPR did a little piece on it. A TV station in Mankato met with Chris Jansma from MACV, Tim Polhai, who is the Chippewa County Veteran Service Officer in Maine. And our message was essentially, if we can do this with veterans experiencing homelessness, I'm going to go ad-lib from here. We can do it with all homelessness. Homelessness is not intractable. There's a way to end it. And I think that's the message here today, is if we can do this with a subpopulation, we can do it with the full population. So since then, we've gotten, as we've implemented more thoroughly our coordinated entry using HMIS, we've integrated mechanisms where when people come in to coordinated entry saying they're veterans, so we make sure they get referred to MACV and the Veteran Service Officer so that they can be considered for additional resources. So that was our experience with officially ending veteran homelessness.
Thanks, Justin. And just real quickly, wanted to mention too that the other 3 COCs that have had the opportunity to help them with their submission of this evidence, it's always very unique depending on the area of the state they work with. And I think that's important to know that we're really focused on the unique needs of that area. So the next slide is very focused on HMS data and some equity. So I will pass it off to here.
So I'm guessing that you've gathered the theme. One theme here is around the fact that we have to actually have really good data. And one of the ways that we have to have really good data is in terms of actually understanding and then intervening in the disparities that we see in who experiences homelessness. This is a picture of veterans in the first column, and then all singles and all adults, veterans and non-veterans, who were entered into the HMS system in 2017. And so, obviously you see that the scale of how many veterans are in that system is much larger than you see with the point-in-time count, right? So you need to understand not only just where you are at an individual moment, which the point-in-time count is good at doing and at tracking trends, you also have to understand what is that inflow and what is your outflow. So what are the people that are coming into homelessness, who are the people that are moving into housing out of homelessness. It also allows us then to look really significantly at those disparities, and notably, with the veteran population in our HMIS system, in some ways those disparities are less acute than for other populations, although still very dramatic in the context of the general population. So the kind of some background on the general population is in the kind of footnote at the bottom of the slide. The point here being that in addition to understanding who needs to be connected with housing and kind of how does that break down in terms of these disparities, one of the things we've been able to do with the Veteran Registry is then actually look at whether our success rates into housing correlate with what we see here in terms of who's actually experiencing homelessness. That's been a really important way to largely confirm that we are seeing equitable outcomes across the veteran programs that are operating, but also, frankly, focus on particular subpopulations where we might need to do some additional outreach. So, for example, one of the female veteran population is a rapidly growing segment, not only in general across all veterans, but also veterans experiencing homelessness. So making sure that as we're on top of that data, we have strategies in place that are responsive to those disparities as they evolve.
Next slide. So this is just a really good sort of graphic to see how Minnesota compares to the nationwide average, and a couple of the states actually that have met the federal benchmarks and criteria, statewide. Interestingly, Minnesota swoops below both of the states that have been confirmed, and there's actually a third state as well, Delaware, I believe, but it's a little bit small, so it wasn't the greatest comparison. So as you can see from this slide, it's just a really good visualization of how well we are doing and how well our systems have been functioning. Excellent. This is our pick count data from 2011 to 2017 of veteran-specific data by COC. And really, I just wanted to kind of let everyone take a look at this and see if anyone has any comments or questions about this slide, or just kind of open it up for any dialogue with me. As you can see, really the bulk of our veteran population still remain in those few continuums. As you can see, Hennepin, Ramsey, and then Central and in Rochester. Next slide, please. So as we continue, we still do face some challenges, and I'm sure that these challenges are not new challenges to anyone in the room. I think they're probably across the board for the most part. Really, affordable housing shortages, low vacancy rates, increasing rents, continuous landlord engagement, and just continuously reaching out and trying to get folks to buy in. What we realized is these efforts are really the most effective at the municipal level. So wherever we can get cities and mayors on board to help us out with this landlord engagement, and to come up with strategies that really focus on their municipalities is important, because every municipality is different. Identifying all veterans and coordinating our outreach efforts. This is one of the action items on the state plan that NDVA is working with the Department of Transportation, who has been tasked with sort of cleaning up the encampments. Well, we want to have meaningful engagements with those when we're meeting those encampments, and so we are working together to sort of develop using GIS technology ways that we can have those meaningful interactions right there on the spot with providers and individuals who are experiencing shelter homelessness. And then we'll ask too, just availability of housing options for hardest to house individuals. And sometimes what we realize with our chronic population is that the process is actually what pushes them away from our providers. So they may be interested one day in actually moving into a unit, but if you can't just give them a key right there and let them go into their new unit, it's the process that can sometimes push them away. So if we find a way to figure out how to sort of deal with folks that are really experiencing that kind of homelessness. And then rental screening criteria as well. And I'm sure there are others, if anyone has any others to add. Otherwise, I will. That's enough, and thank you again for allowing us to come on the agenda.
Well, thank you, everyone. And we do have a couple of minutes for quick questions, and then you're going to get the opportunity over lunch today to talk about some questions. If you could pull up the next slide, please. So these are the questions we'll have a chance to talk about over lunch. One thing I did want to point out that certainly wasn't obvious to me when we first founded the Veterans Registry back in 2014, that is that it is a voluntary registry. And that's why we give a so-called tennis warning, letting people know that the information will not be used, but that the veteran is voluntarily sharing the information that goes into the registry. And I must confess that when Eric first came to me and said, we're going to set up this voluntary registry, I said, it will never work. And that was partly came from being in a state agency where we're constantly battling about the ability to get access to private data from individuals. And it is a huge barrier. And I think at one time, Eric told me that there's about a 90% acceptance rate from veterans, that once veterans know that there is a registry available, about 90% voluntarily agree to become part of the registry. And to me, that was a really groundbreaking idea that made the Veterans Registry possible, where those of us who work in government were able to set aside one of those bureaucratic barriers that we sometimes let stop us from doing a really big idea. Any quick questions? Santa?
Thanks. This is a very quick question. I think just really nuts and bolts. The slide about the housing resources for veterans, the 100 new HUD cash vouchers that were awarded this year. I've heard from other communities around the country that that was a huge number, more than other communities received, and that nobody could sort of figure out what calculation was used to arrive at that. Do you know why we received so much at that time?
I don't. I'm sorry, but maybe it's really a formula that HUD uses, and that's moving forward. In the past, we were able to identify a specific amount that we felt would fill our gap, and starting in FY18, that wasn't something that they were asking for, and that it is based on this formula from HUD. So if there's anybody else that could answer it.
It seems to not match the formula, like the number we got didn't align. It should have been a lot less, so people were like, hey, how did you do that? And I was like, I don't know.
So I guess we're in the let's count our blessings category, and the question I have to follow up on that one is what plans do we have, since we have this bounty, to really mobilize those units? Anything special in working with PHAs?
And actually, I do want to go back to your question. The other thing that may have helped us bump that number up is the registry data. So, we submitted, the registry data along with what we people need to support. So I think, again, back to the point that that's hugely important in getting additional resources. And I'm sorry, Gary, what was your...
So the question is, are there any special plans with the registry teams to really mobilize those vouchers, since we have them?
Well, the VA is present at every registry meeting, and so the vouchers that we've already received are going quickly in hands of veterans. So we're working very closely as we have.
I have one other question, and that is, I know that in the past we've done some very high-profile events like Cash for Keys that really called a lot of media attention to trying to get landlords to really step up and be open to the idea of accepting cash vouchers and just veteran referrals. Given that we do have this resource available, any special plans for a similar sort of physical event this summer?
Well, recently the city of Minneapolis did launch their own Keys for Heroes program, so thank you for mentioning that. And they're just a little bit different. It was very focused on their, I always have to be careful when I talk about this because it's kind of complicated, but basically the landlords and property managers get their rental licensing and permitting fees based on their tiered status. They're a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 landlord. And so tier 3 landlords, obviously, they've had problems, they've had premise calls, things like that. So we worked with the city to sort of come up with a way with the regulatory department to figure out how to sort of incent landlords, not through cash, but through making them sort of, sort of an immunity to some conduct on premise calls, where if they had previously agreed to house homeless veterans from the registry, they would be, as I said, immune to some conduct on premise calls. Obviously, some were serious where they could not do that. But that, I think it did create some incentive. And really, we're going to be re-examining that in the near future here, because I know some things are changing in Hennepin and the city of Minneapolis as well. Ben, do you have something?
I think the landlord piece is really critical, especially as these VASH vouchers get into the system. Having a voucher does not guarantee housing, because there's still many of the veterans that are going to be targeted for these VASH vouchers are those with the highest barriers, felonies, multiple evictions. It's like what Brian was talking about, we sort of saw that flattening of the curve. This is going to help push that back down, which is what the critical piece is now. Some of the strategies that we've been talking about as a system as well is how do we engage landlords in a way that is more partnership than I think traditional, something almost adversarial for years in our field. And some of that is being able to limit the risks that landlords have when they're renting to folks that have high barriers. And so we're talking as a system, we've had conversations about what can everybody engaging landlords on behalf of homeless veterans, on behalf of any homeless population, what can we all say to landlords that we're willing to do, so that we have a consistent message rather than this agency I'll work with, that agency I won't work with, oftentimes based on who the very individual at the agency is that they've talked about. So setting consistent standards for our work with landlords is going to be very critical to getting landlords to be willing to work with us, because they're business people and they don't want to take a risk. How can we limit that risk?
Right, and Kathy is going to have the last word.
Well, maybe it's a good transition, because my comment was, I know that at lunch we're going to talk about these questions, and one of the major concerns on my mind, on my office, I'm sure I'm doing your mind as well, is the trend line that we are not having success with in Minnesota, which is the trend line of the number of people who are unsheltered in our state. That has gone up dramatically over the years, the last couple of years, not unique to us, certainly. But what I would love, as we're having this conversation, is for groups to think about what we've learned from this work that you think we should be thinking about applying to the people that are experiencing unsheltered homelessness in Minnesota. And so this is a little challenge, and if we have really good ideas that come out of that, we'd be really helpful actually to somehow take that.
Great. And so now we're going to break for lunch. It's complicated, so give me a second. Lunches are at the back of the room. Looking at the logistics of the room and the number of people, I'm going to ask you to try to congregate on either side, on both sides of the table, where it's kind of beyond the circle, because most of us are going to fit there, and where there is not enough room towards the ends of the tables, let's gravitate towards this side of the room, towards the gentleman with the yellow shirt. Can you raise your hand? And you can turn the chairs around. We're going to recalibrate the circle, as our panelists will be stepping out of the circle when we reconvene. We're going to reconvene at 5 minutes to 1. And as you're having your conversations, Jennifer Holt will be coming around and asking one person in each cluster to be ready to report out what the big idea was that you came up with over lunch. So you have 20 minutes to get lunch, find a group to sit with, come up with a big idea, and do that. How's that? Thank you.